Welcome to the show. My name is Joey Galvez, and you are watching Explain Yourself. I'm here with my pal, Benjamin W. Morse. Ben, how's it going, pal?
How's it going, man? It's good to be back after our break.
Yeah, it's been we took a little break because everybody it was a really long weekend. We wanted to make sure that everybody had some time with their family one last time before everybody went back to school. But we're here now, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff. You can hear my kids out there in the background crying a little bit. It's all right though. But we thank you guys for showing up and hanging out with us. Let's bring in our two guests here. We got Bryan and Justin here, going to talk a little bit about their books here. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about a book that is in previews right now, which is Bryan's book called Milk Run. You guys can check that out from Scout Comics right now. And then we're also going to talk about Justin's book that is currently funding right now on Kickstarter called Edge of Darkness. Please, Benjamin, take it over, pal. Let's not waste any time.
No, let's not. Guys, thanks for coming on. Both your books are really cool looking. So Justin, tell me a quick pitch about Edge of Darkness.
Edge of Darkness is it's kind of my wife says I've invented a new subgenre. I don't know. It's kind of a far future biopunk thing where humanity lives deep underwater, where no one's seen the sun for God knows how long, and they use biotechnology to grow like squid suits where they can swim around as a giant squid or as a shark. So it's kind of it's a little bit of a dystopian concept. There's a lot of claustrophobia and things like that, because the ultimate metaphor for it is sort of emerging from depression. So that's the emotional arc of the comic. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy sea monsters. I took basically, if it's a crazy sea monster from any point in human history or world history rather, I happily copied it and used it. So there's a lot of weird stuff in there. So is that my 30 seconds?
Very cool. No, nobody ever does. Actually, one person did 30 seconds once, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I'm kind of surprised.
We're gonna get a timer next time.
Well, Humble Jeopardy thing.
So much. I got this. This is the Helicorpion, which is an extinct shark. Leonardo did a lot of amazing art for the series, so
nice.
I figured I'd get my first tattoo of it. So,
wow, awesome. All right, and Bryan, tell us about Milk Run.
Yeah, sure. Milk Run is a time travel crime mystery set in city Philadelphia. It's about this guy named Zach who suddenly one day woke up and found out that he could travel through time up to 10 years in the past. And he decided the only thing he was going to use that for was to just buy some cheap groceries in the past and live it up in the present. That is until he comes across a true crime podcast about an event that he witnessed when he was traveling to the past once. And he decided to take it upon himself to solve that crime and hopefully help everyone who was involved in it move on and learn a little bit more about himself. Story about just like maturity and privilege in the city and trying to do what's right with a power that you're suddenly thrust upon you. So, yeah.
Very cool. So we're going to jump back over to Edge of Darkness for a few minutes and bring the campaign screen up. And everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the links to each of these projects right in the show description. So you can head over to Kickstarter or previews and get your copy of these books. But bringing up Edge of Darkness here, your idea is pretty original, Justin. I was going to say the look really matches it. It's kind of got a blacklight feel that really makes the alienness of this, dystopia these people are in really seem different without, actually looking that. If you look at this, it's not like a crazy art style that I'm like, oh, they're doing something in a very different medium or something, but it just has a really sharp, distinctive, different feel that I think really sells the environment that these people are in. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did you and your artist kind of experiment with that, or did you just kind of took it and ran with it and came up with this?
We really vibed. Leonardo is he's cool as hell. His section at the bottom, I actually uploaded a video of his interview with him. But he just got it. I mean, honestly, this is way cooler than I was picturing when I handed him the script. So I've been very happy with it. and he's on time. He beats deadlines. So I just love that guy. But yeah, his style really captured. I mean, the blue red thing is because it's the behavior of light at that depth. The color really matters because red doesn't go as far because it gets blocked by the water, and so creatures will use red as sort of their I'm looking, but I don't want to be seen light, and then blue is their communication or decoy or ambush light, and so that's part of the aesthetic. And then also it's very biological, and so there's no metal. It's not going to look anything like your normal submarine or what have you. So.
Yeah, it's really distinctive, but you can, I mean, at least as an artist, I look at this and I think there is very clearly, and you quickly get that there's a logic to this. And it's cool to see that there's kind of research that backs that up too. It's a really nice look. You mentioned that this was kind of a metaphor for some things. Can you kind of go into that and kind of how you kind of relate to that initial idea to, creating this whole world that kind of illustrates it?
This is one of those projects, and I always feel like it's always a good sign where it just hit. Like, I did not sit around and plan this. I opened up Scrivener and started writing, and this is what came out. I've been fascinated with the concept of sort of plugging in to become another animal for a while. I mean, I think like that's kind of an on and off daydream. But I kind of combine that with a love of the deep sea. I am a licensed scuba diver. I haven't gone nearly as much as I'd like, but there's something about pulling yourself down a rope into the depths that can spark some creativity. What was the question again?
Well, you said this is a bit of a metaphor for depression in some ways, and kind of like this seems like humanity kind of reemerging, if that's what happened.
I can totally feel that. I feel that though, because what you were saying just a second ago, when you're this far down deep in there, you're a deep diver, and when it's very cerebral, you're very in your own space, in your own head, and I feel like I get this, right? I get that from looking at these pages. I feel like alone. I feel like there's a deep darkness, and I love what you're doing here. I'm excited to hear what kind of metaphor it's about.
Well, I mean, I feel like this is one of those things I didn't realize until it was over. But I mean, what we're seeing here is he's at the bottom of the ocean just doing his job. And the thing is that they've been down there for so long that they're prey animals now. And if you go another page or two, you'll see the guy in blue, he's committing suicide by attracting a kraken. And this is the initial conflict in the, or this triggers the initial conflict that starts everything, is that he killed himself. And then Jaimo, the hero, decides to lie to protect basically his life insurance benefits for his family. Right. And then it goes from there. But, so it started out kind of with a depression, a suicidal person. And then Jaimo kind of has a religious vision that guides him out of the depression, and he starts going and doing stuff. It's not nearly as oh God, what's it? It's not nearly as pedantic as it might sound when I'm explaining it, or as heavy-handed. It's not was it parable? Anyway, but it very much is that. I mean, and that's basically based on the emotional experience I was having at the time. As I was coming out of a very long period of maybe not horrible depression, but compared to what I was experiencing, pretty crap. And so this is what came out. It was sort of so it's ultimately, it starts out really claustrophobic but it's about joy, ultimately, and it ends up in that spot. So, without getting into spoilers too much. So,
yeah, cool. I love
Very
these
cool.
pages, and I think that's kind of what it sounds like. The structure this is built on is, and certainly the look of the comic too, seem really cinematic to me. Like, even though the style is not like, it's certainly not. It looks realistic, but it's not super rendered. It's not certainly like Alex Ross or even somebody that gets into the cross hatching and shading. But it still has a real tactile feel to it. Just this close up here, I just really like that. It looks great and it feels really cinematic. So it's just a very cool world.
Like the art on some of these pages, if you're looking at them in 4K with I have gasped at some of the color work he did. He's just a really interesting artist. I mean, style wise,
very, very interesting. Yeah, it's very like loose. I don't know if I would say loose pencils. Would that be something to say here, Ben? Like where you don't really see a lot of tight.
Yeah,
kind of going on here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's loose in the same way that
that we typically think.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. I mean, it's because it's certainly realistic. You're not looking at say
there's been a lot of stuff that coming out like this lately, right? Where it's kind of reminiscent to like 2000 ADs type stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Kaijus and Cowboys was like that as well, like very similar to this style. So I really love what we're doing here. We're kind of stepping outside of the box here a little bit, right? It's not really conventional kind of art style we're used to seeing that's there.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like Stuart Immonen when he would experiment a little bit, because it's realistic, but there's just a lot of painterly effects and a lot of energy in that, while still being pretty realistic, which is cool. So tell us about the book itself. How many pages is
it? This issue, I believe, is 22 or 23 pages. Mm-hmm. It's 6 issues total. I originally wrote 18, but the editor was like, trim it, and so I did. So this is the super tight version. So yeah, it should be I don't know if mini series is appropriate, but it's a 6-issue arc. It's all written and ready to go. So
when you chop that down, you said it's kind of the condensed version, which I always think is, at least with my stuff, has been, I think, a lot stronger. Is this something where you kind of condensed the whole 18-issue story, or are you kind of saving some of that stuff and maybe?
Well, I had 2 other characters who also had their 6-issue arcs, and I think that a lot of it is pretty cool. If I end up going back to this universe, I'll definitely be exploring it, but it was not strictly necessary for the story, the story that I really wanted to tell, so I cut it. So it definitely, if there's a sequel, I could basically just wheel those out pretty easily, but for now it's just 6.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I found that like when I did my condensed version, I like the story better, but there are moments and characters I'm like, God, I really missed that. I really wish there was a way to use that somewhere else, or so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, but brevity is never a bad thing in comics. I mean, it's always good to be tight. So I didn't fight about the cutting the 12 issues too much, because I felt like she had a point. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what Leonardo does with some of the concepts that we have in it. It's going to be very challenging for him to draw some of the stuff, I think. He thinks he can do it, so he's probably right, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, it's you don't see a lot of this, and I don't know of any comic that does. I don't know of anything that quite does this, actually, but I'm sure there's something somewhere. But it was a lot of fun to write it.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, I really, just from seeing these pages and hearing just a little bit of your description, I mean, you can tell the research I think both of you did in kind of using, like, we see this, we've like, even if you're not an expert or you're not really into biology, you're like, oh yeah, that's that fish that has the thing, and you can see what's going on. And I think you said brevity is important in comics. It really is. I think visual brevity is super important too. When you can come up with things that are really iconic, which is to say they work in not like they're iconic like Superman is, but they can work in like all kinds of different panels. They can work in silhouette. And you have a lot of things here, I think, that do that. Which I just, as a reader, you definitely want to get that, especially when you're doing an indie book that you need to really bring people on board and get them up to speed to the fun stuff soon. Like I said, I think you and Leonardo both did. I would imagine a lot of thinking about what these concepts are and how they can be communicated really clearly, so that people could just jump in and I think appreciate the world.
Yeah, Leonardo's not the first artist that I had work on this, so I have the other guys' pages for the same stuff. Leonardo did an amazing job. Let's just say that. There's a reason I had someone else do it, but yeah, I mean, he really pulled it off in a lot of ways. And like I said, like, so one of the suits that they have, like, they're all like kind of like a spatchcock chicken, right? Except it's a giant squid, and you kind of curl up like an embryo, and it wraps around you. So there's this one squid called the cockeyed squid, where it floats with one eye up and one eye down, and the down eye has a bioluminescence to it, like it's like a ring around it so it can see, and the other one is just sitting there like a telescope looking for stuff to eat, right?
Wow.
And that's one of the suits that we have in the thing is just a giant cockeyed squid. There's all kinds of cool stuff. Like there's a concept. Umwelt is the German word for basically like what other animals experience, or the totality of a being's experience, right? So when you're plugging into the cockeyed squid, then you go from your normal binocular vision to whatever showing that it's going to be pretty interesting for Leonardo, I think, to say the least. But or maybe we just won't end up doing it. But exploring that, being a different animal, depression, sex, love. There's sex. There's plenty of sex. I gotta sell it, but yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it has layers to it for sure.
So, very cool.
Yeah, that sounds pretty challenging for an artist. Sometimes you get scripts and you think, boy, you can write this stuff, but
I was gently poking him to actually read all of them, because I'm like, you're going to need to think about this for a while, some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's read it, so he's on board. I think he'll do it well.
Yeah, sometimes even the really complicated things, you just let it sit up there in your brain for a while, and you're like, oh wait, here's how I'll do that. Or you see something in the interim that's like, oh, that's a good approach. That's what I'll adapt and bring in there.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let the problem kind of simmer, and then the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So we're going to jump over to Bryan's book, Milk Run, and I'm going to bring that up real quick. Cover at least. So this one's coming out from Scout. It's time travel adventure. Tell us a little bit about like some of the influences you had as far as like kind of your characters, and then maybe also like the world and kind of the setup of this.
Yeah, sure. So as far as Zach, the main character, goes, it's basically boils down to like when I was coming up with like a lot of different ideas of things I wanted to get started. It was, okay, what's the crappiest thing I could do if I just had the ability to time travel, like to benefit myself? I'm just like, okay, I would just save money and buy some cheap groceries. And as far
everybody
as
wishes they could do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just like, it's probably not that. I'm like, I was really buying groceries 10 years ago for the most part. Someone, with my parents still, so they were taking care of that, but they said things were cheaper. So I'm like, cool, good enough for me. And as far as like the world and the setting, I live in Philadelphia right now, and it's become a part of me that means a lot to me, just because I spent so much time in the city, and I wanted to tell a story centered around what it is to live in the city and why it's so important to some people.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I noticed when I read through this that the you're so used to seeing comics set in New York that it almost feels like a default. I noticed some of the places they went to definitely had a life to them that felt like, hey, this I think is a real place, and it's not, just generic Spider-Man's version of New York sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, it was fun, like putting those spots like the waterfront down by the river or the Franklin Fountain ice cream factory in the script, and like sending Jarrett Katz, our artist, the references, and just seeing him like bring them to life in the book like that, and then having Zach go there with other characters and visit them. It's like, oh, it's really cool to see come to life there.
Yeah. Speaking of the art, I have to mention, like, this art, I mean, your artist is fantastic.
He's really phenomenal. He came highly recommended from our editor, James Emmett, when I was first getting started and talking with him. I went to Jarrett's portfolio, and he had a really incredible spacescape on his portfolio that I'm just like, this doesn't take place in space, but this is what's like hooking me onto his art. And he was down with it. He was really into the idea, and we just ended up working really well together as far as our process for, like, I'm a full script writer, so I would send the full script and I'll get his notes back on things, and then he would give his pencils. We go back and forth like that. It was a very easy collaborative process with him, and it was just like talking to a friend at that, like, early on, and then, you know, we've become closer since then too.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, it reminds me when I first looked at that cover, I was like, "Is that by George Jimenez? This is really good."
He's very he's a big fan of like the manga inspired stuff.
Yeah.
And he's referenced that a lot when we were talking about some of the fight sequences that we have later in the series, with inspiring his take on them.
Yeah, it's really dynamic stuff. A lot of personality, which you could see in that grocery scene, which that felt very manga to me, like these expressions and stuff.
I was impressed with like his face work. I'm like, oh, I really am throwing like a lot of like look descriptions in my script. I'm just like, I know this is probably a lot to deal with, but he's like, yeah, here it is. Here's the checkout lady looking quite annoyed. I'm like, oh, he captured that really well.
Yeah, no, it's really cool stuff. One of the things I think this is probably the biggest takeaway I had was, you know, it was so hard to know where the story was going to go, and I think you do something that was interesting, and that you almost you start off with this premise that's pretty open ended, and the tone is pretty open ended. Like this could be a comedy, this could get dark, this could get serious, and I think as I went through the issue, without spoiling anything, it really narrows down to what the story is going to be about. And I thought that was just a really interesting pace that you had set up, where at first I thought, is this just going to be kind of a joke about, like, does everybody just go back in time and buy cheaper groceries because things are so insane now at the store? And then it just narrowed to a really good character story and a really good objective that he has. Did you really plan that out, or did that kind of just develop on its own?
It definitely developed on its own, because when I first started, I kind of had no clue where I wanted to take it until I started kind of the idea of making it a crime that he has to solve with his powers. And then just trying to figure out how to make that work, like, backwards, like, from there, especially with the whole time travel aspect, because it was like, why does he time travel? I'm like, he kind of just does. I don't know if you've ever seen the movies. It came out like 2011. I think it was like About Time. It was a time travel like rom-com with Amy Adams, I think, Domhnall Gleeson, and he could just time travel because. And so it's like, oh, what if I do like a mix of, like, it's About Time meets, 48 Hours, or Cold Cases in this case, because it's going back in time to solve a very cold case.
Yeah, no, I think you were really smart in how you set that up, because I don't think I asked myself once, like, hey, I need to know, like, a little bit more about his power set, or how he got them, or what the rules are. I think you folded that into the story really organically in a way that I didn't even notice, but I do have a sense of, like, okay, he has like this kind of time limit thing a little bit. He's got a few other things he's worried about that seem to be kind of fixed. And that made a lot of sense. It never slowed the story down. I don't feel like you ever did an exposition scene where you stop and said, this is how it started, this is how it works, but it all does work really well within the context of your story. And I think everything you did really focuses on where this guy is and what kind of person he is, and then where he's probably going to end up going.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that. I owe a lot of that to like focusing into James and Nicole, who is our scout editor, just like honing in certain things and getting their feedback. So like I had a lot of the bare bones stuff there, and then like their little tweaks really like nudged it towards what it ended up becoming. I was like, oh, this is exactly how it was supposed to turn out in my mind.
Yeah, I've worked with Nicole before. She's great. But yeah, so I think this was a really interesting, there's a lot of time travel stories. I think you carved out a really good niche for, what your stakes of this particular story are going to be. And like I said, at first I'm like, this is such a broad concept. Not that that's bad.
Right.
I really like how it narrowed down. So he finds this case he's got to kind of solve. And I think that even finding that has kind of shaped how he's approached things up till now a little bit. What kind of, like, how long is the series going to be, and where, without spoiling anything, kind of where is he going to go with this?
So it's only 3 issues, so just very like beginning, middle, end, and it's going to see him go through this journey of like he has an idea of how he needs to solve this case and the reason that he thinks he's doing. Like, he has one reason that he thinks he's doing it, but he's taking a very complicated route to go about to get there, and it's going to be a journey of going through, is this the right way, and is this even what I have to do to end this the right way for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think again, I hope I'm not spoiling anything here, but I think the way he's used his powers up until the beginning of the story has been, I would say, kind of cautious, which I think is probably smart, butterfly effect and all that. But it's interesting to me, and I thought a real tension point for the rest of this was like, as the story develops, he's putting himself in a situation where he's going to be a lot more serious about this and try to do more, I think, than he has before, and that really was a good cliffhanger. I really wanted to see, like, okay, how's this going to go for him? What stuff is he, like that really set up a good, not a cliffhanger in terms of he's in danger and he's, about to get killed and something could happen by issue 2. But I think you stopped at a really good intro point where it's like, okay, I really want to see what happens to this guy as he tries to do this. And he's kind of set up a little bit of mentioning how like things have changed, or maybe not been able, he hasn't been able to kind of do a lot of things before.
Yeah.
I have a sense of what he's worried about. I think that was like, I think I have the perfect amount of knowledge and the perfect amount of questions going forward here.
Yep. Like when you meet him, he's very locked in his ways of when he first got these powers. He had all these grand aspirations, but when we see him like in these opening pages, he's doing nothing but going to like the fresh market to get some cereal because it's a little bit cheaper back in 2011 than it was in 2021, where he's living in that present. So it's going to be a lot of him learning about himself, like what should he be doing, and like there are other ways to help other than just the at face value what you can assume you could do. There's other ways if he thinks a little bit more critically and isn't so let's say hindered by his emotional stake and attachment to everything, that he can kind of clear his mind and be like, oh, here's a clear path forward that if I actually listen to people too, I can get there.
Yeah, and I think also one thing I wanted to bring up and had my notes was you have a really good supporting cast around this character. I think they're a good amount. They're interesting enough to not just be there and be plot devices, but they kind of bring the focus back to him in a good way. Can you tell me a little bit more like about how you developed them, if you based them off of anybody, and kind of did you pay a lot of attention to like how they would highlight his story, or like kind of how did you organize that?
Yeah, so it's not like, as we can see in that opening page with the radio caption, if you want to maybe go up to that, we can see like it mentions the murder of Maria and Gabriel Winters, and they become someone that Zach becomes quite attached to back in his past when he jumps to go grocery shopping. And they weren't particularly inspired by anyone of interest to me, but it was mainly just like ideological foils to him of what he thinks like the ideal people should be doing in their communities and how to act. And that's what initially motivated him to try and help with his powers, but ends up learning, much like how the powers like end up not working out how he wants to. And then we have their son Benny, who he meets in the present, who's just this aspirational youth he has a general idea of like of how things can be and wants that to happen, and it's kind of a shadow on Zach, who has to be a little bit too realistic with him sometimes too. So it's kind of a growing tool for him there.
Yeah, those come across really well. Like I said, I think just to wrap up my part of it, like I think this had a really good sense of pacing in terms of what I think you kind of took a lot of the order we normally get facts dropped on us for an intro issue of a story. I think you rearranged those a little bit, but you did it in a way that the characters, the scenes, everything really was paced so well. I was very interested to see, even with a genre that's like kind of familiar, like the things you did with it made me really interested and made me really want to keep turning the pages.
Yeah, time travel was definitely a challenge of a story to start with, I thought, because there's so many different methods to decide like how he's going back in time. And then there's like the rules you have to decide, like, oh, is he going to be changing the past at all, or is it like a locked in timeline that he's just kind of interacting with? And that's kind of the one I went with in here. And yeah, there's a lot of couple corners I wrote myself into early on with some drafts that took a bit of careful navigation out to go get it to where it's like, oh, this actually makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. So, we'll come back in just a minute after we take a quick break. And Joey will ask these guys some questions about how they got their books put together and what they're doing to get them out to readers.
Yeah.
Click that mouse and warp into All Ages of Geek's website, your ultimate portal to everything geek culture. Here you'll find articles that speak your language, from the latest anime buzz to the coolest tech trends. Our mission? To celebrate geekdom in all its glory. Whether you're a gamer, a comic enthusiast, a 90s kid, or an anime aficionado, we've got something for you. Dive deep into them with All Ages of Geek.
Thank you, Ben, for handling that first half of the show. We appreciate that. And thank you to our partners over at All Ages of Geek. If you guys are wanting to go find out all kinds of really cool stuff, anything from anime to comic books and everything in between, anything geeky, head on over to All Ages of Geek and you will find some really cool stuff there. Check it out because they just went to a con and they're going to be dropping a lot of really great content. They have a really cool YouTube site, so check them out over there as well. They drop stuff constantly. If you guys are really like bored one night and want to check out some really cool stuff, check it out. It's a couple of sisters who run the site, and they do some fantastic stuff. They have a whole group of fun people who go out to cons and run interviews. So very, very cool. Check them out. They're going to be partnering with us on Archetypes, which is our magazine that we are going to be running here in October. Which is a magazine. It's kind of our tip of the hat to Wizard Magazine or any kind of those old school fun magazines that you guys used to love, right? All right, right around the corner is Halloween, so we're going to be doing an homage to Fangoria because that's one of the magazines that I used to love. So we're going to be paying homage to that one, and we're going to be doing that with our Archetypes magazine issue 2. And that's, you guys can check that out at geekcollective.net/archetypes, the number 2. And you can sign up to to let you guys know when that one is going to be launching. So head on over there to do that. But enough about us. We're going to talk about you guys. And since we're talking a little bit about marketing and advertising and such, I want to know a little bit about how you guys put this. We usually, Bryan, we're going to talk to you a little bit about how you guys are kind of doing stuff in the direct market, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Kickstarter market here in the crowdfunding market with Justin a little bit. I want to know what kind of things that you've done recently to kind of, break through the algorithm, because these algorithms have been so crazy lately since feel like they've gotten, broken on purpose.
I'm not sure that I have figured out how to break that.
It's hard. So what have you done so far to get this because this is gorgeous, people need to see it, and how do you let people know?
I talk about it all the time on Facebook. I have some promotions going on Twitter that might be helping a little bit, but the podcast seemed to be like the main thing that actually kind of moves the needle, typically, honestly, for me at least.
If you're getting in on those podcasts, it's really good because there's a lot of them that are the really, really good ones. They are at least 3 or 4 months out ahead. If you're scheduling something and you're thinking that you want to get on one, ask them when their schedule is, and then kind of plan around that. But that's it. And keeping a good relationship with some of them, not just always asking for an interview, but listening and sharing their things out definitely gives them a better chance, gives you a better chance for them to say yes.
And it's been I would love to figure out how to get more attention for it, because it's been I am not social media gifted. I kind of hate it, honestly. So it's been a struggle, but I mean, there's so many scammers, man. Like every time you post, you just get assaulted by.
Facebook is really bad with that. When you go to those, it feels like there's a brand new crowdfunding group that just pops up, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna try this one out. And you get a lot of people that are hey, look, I love your stuff. Can it could do a lot better if I just talk to you this one time. And
Yeah.
you're just like, okay, pal, don't guarantee me anything, right?
So yeah, I don't know. I'm just this is the second one I've ever done.
How'd the
you know,
first one go?
huh?
How did the first one go?
Like $60.
Okay.
So
And I'm looking through your Kickstarter now, right? And the one of the biggest things here is like making sure that you have all the information, making sure that this thing is gorgeous. People, you show some pages, and you got that going around here, right? So
Mhm.
These price points, what you don't have, they're not too high. I think the highest one is what, $24, if I'm not mistaken. And anywhere from $6 to $24. Why so low in these reward brackets here?
well, I mean, I feel like by the time you end up paying shipping and handling and everything, it's not cheap at all. I mean, a print copy is basically at least $20 essentially by the time you get done with the shipping and handling. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it accessible. I mean, I know I'm not really going to turn a profit on this. I'm just looking to, help out with the cost of paying the art and stuff, really. So, I mean, I felt like these prices were pretty on par with other people without being excessive. Especially since nobody knows who the hell I am. I feel like I'm not really in a position to charge premium prices right now.
Well, but I still love your price points, right? You have a print edition at where we at here. Looks like you got a $10 print edition, right? If we're throwing on cost $15 to $20, like you're saying, that's a really good range for a nice looking book, especially if you're going to a really great printer to get these sent out, and all these gorgeous looking covers, all kinds of different choices. But I think you're doing it. You're doing it kind of exactly what Ben and I kind of coach people. When they're starting out, you have something, right? You want to get it out there, and you want to maybe pay for some of the art, right? But and use this to get to as your advertising space, right? As you're running a 30-day campaign to get to people to see you and all this stuff. And if it doesn't fund, then pay it. You have other resources. You can get that thing printed if it was a low funding goal. Like, I'm actually considering, I think I need to have a sit down with Ben, and we're considering maybe lowering our our goal for our next one so that we can make sure that it hits faster and gets there. And then so that, we fund it at what we need to print it just enough so that we can get it in people's hands and maybe sell a little bit, on my tables, and then use that funds and to do it again, right? So I think if you kind of get that kind of movement within that kind of what do they call them, sales funnels,
Yeah,
right, going, and then you start growing a little bit more. It's only a matter of time. You just got to get in the middle of it and get it going.
well, that's good to hear. Yeah, because it does sometimes feel like you're just banging your head against a wall sometimes.
Bryan, how are you doing in the direct market? Direct market's a completely different game. You got to look at it differently. You gotta talk to shops. You got to call them. What are you doing to get yourself out there with this book?
Within like the first week of it being announced, it was a lot of just like posting on social media and using some of my pals that I have in like different podcasting spaces and other blog spaces to get the word out. Sharing on Facebook and mobilizing my parents and their collective of childhood friends that just love to post and support about other stuff. So like they spread the word. And yeah. And then I have like a time, not like a timeline, but a plan to continue reaching out to more podcasts and different outlets to get on their radar and just maybe get like if I can't get on an actual podcast, do like a published like article interview. I've reached out to some local like Philadelphia outlets as far as like news to see if anyone interested in writing a piece about this. It's a story set in Philly. I have to start a little bit more aggressively talking to shops. I have like my hometown shop that I go to that's already like looking forward to having a release date
Very cool.
signing.
Love
And then
So,
there's like
so I got
yeah.
a question. I don't mean to interrupt here, but
Yeah.
you said you reached out to your news, right? Your local news. So how did that go? Did that go pretty well? Did you get any bites?
No response yet. I might throw a couple more lines out to some different networks. It was,
You know, I've been we've helped people, right? And those that's one of the ones that's really a little bit harder, right? If you can get your hands on a local news syndicate to cover you, man, you're golden there, right? And locally, and because you know you got your local shops and you're there, you can show up, pop up, and do all that fun stuff. But it's really hard to break through their their emails, right? Because
right.
a lot of times when you're a PR person on the other end, especially for a local news, right? They got all this stuff coming in, and you gotta catch them with that subject line, and that's that key because they're just gonna read that subject line. If it doesn't hook them, they're not gonna open it. I can almost guarantee that almost every time.
Sure. Yeah.
You're not even gonna get a response back if you're like, hey, reach back out, or you leave all your information. They won't even reach back out, letting you know that they even seen it. So how do you reel from something like that when you feel? How long do you wait between other syndicates that you reach out to?
That's a good question. I would guess it would have to be like, with how fast news goes, probably. And you mentioning that, just like if it's not catching attention, like probably probably 3 days, I would say. Maybe throw another line out there. I'd have to really try, especially depending. Like, I feel like you can't be too broad either. You kind of have to go for personalities if you know on. So like the one person I reached out to is Philly Inquirer writer. So I was like, hey, would you like to, like, more specific, I think probably helps too, instead of just being like the Inquirer's general site. It's like, hey, to this person who does a certain thing, and if I read maybe like your take wrong of what you publish, maybe they pass me along to someone else. But again, if it's been a couple of days, then it's time to like, okay, throw another line out to someone else in that grouping. And then also just have a couple other lines to other places, because there's tons of different like media personalities in Philly too that I am interested in talking to, who I think would like to talk about this, because they've said before in their own public spaces that they enjoy comics. So I'm like,
Very cool.
if I can get in on that, then I think that would be a good way to more
I love
that
you said specific personalities, right? Because if you're local and you're a fan, right, it helps as well, because now you know you can kind of get a feel of what kind of stories they pick up, right? Because if you're watching, you're going to see what kind of stories they are actually doing. Because a lot of times, I don't know if you guys have been around news people and interviews and stuff. Sometimes it's just one person with a camera and a microphone, and they go out and run around and find these stories, right? So when they're there, you get a little bit of a relationship with them, right? Because you're watching and you see you're around that area and you see them all the time, right? So you're like, so you kind of get an idea of what they're going to pick up, so you kind of use use that to your advantage and use that in your hook line to catch them, right? Because maybe you can spin your story a little bit more, right? If they pick up these really heartfelt, local stories, local love kind of stories,
right?
Throw some of that stuff inside of your catch, right? Your pitch.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I think just because not only is that a good idea in its own, for its own merits, just being on the news if you can do it, but I think that's also something you can then go to email comic shops if you get their information. Say, hey, here's some stuff I'm doing. We've been on TV, just to give them a little bit more incentive to take a look at you and consider getting the book. I mean, trying to get, I think one of the reasons I was really interested to talk about this one was I think it's so hard to get shops to order stuff, especially if you're an unknown person on an unknown title. So I think you have a lot of the problems, that indie creators have on Kickstarter, but it's just an infinitely tougher environment. Going shop by shop, there's no way to build up momentum from one place to another the way you do on Kickstarter. So it's kind of like the same problem, but in a very different environment.
Yeah, I would like to. I think this week I'm going to reach out to all like the Philadelphia area shops and like the surrounding counties, and then also like the South Jersey area, just like kind of hitting in on that cultural area that we all share together here, because I know there's shops in those surrounding areas that could be like, hey, you're in the city, I'm a comic writer with a comic set in the city. And it's like, you're a shop that's like, South Jersey's very central to us in terms of like cultural identity. Let's share in on that. Here's a local comic. So stuff like that. And then Jarrett has already said like he's starting to talk to, he's out West Coast talking to his shop, trying to I think convincing them to stock the book for when it releases too.
Yeah, it helps having a team that wants to sit there and that doesn't want to just sit around. They want to get out there and get to work too, right? Mm-hmm. You got cover A, Jarrett Katz. Is that how you say his name? Katz?
Yep, Jarrett Katz. Yep.
Jarrett Katz. And then you got Lars right here. This is I've seen their work. Yep. Tons of friends out there all over the place. I love their work.
So fantastic.
Laura Hillsby. Fantastic cover for cover B. The way you guys can get that, if you guys are listening, you guys can head on over to Previews World. That's and then type in Scout Comics or this exact code. This is your previews code is SEP242012, and then for Laura's cover here, it is SEP242013. And you guys can pre-order those right now today as you're listening to this, and head on over to your local comic shop if you want to do it that way and have them order it. You can just send them that code and they'll grab that right there for you. It's the easiest way to get this one on your pull list. So make sure you guys are doing that. If you guys are listening and watching, definitely grab these ones. I would say grab our friend Laura's cover there because it's freaking awesome. I grab Jarrett's too while you're at it, but I don't know. I know Lars, but I worked with them before, so I'm a little bit of bias there. So fantastic covers though. They are all fantastic covers. Buy them all if you can. That's if you can. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about some Kickstarter stuff. We got about 15 minutes left, but I wanted to talk a little bit about price points and things like that. And I love Justin's point that he made. He's starting off. This is one of his first ones. Well, you knocked it out of the park with this gorgeous freaking work here. First one out of the gate here, but with the price points a little bit lower, making it super affordable for everyone to kind of jump on board, kind of puts you in the smaller bracket, this lower funding bracket. And are you doing this so that you can just print some books, put it on your table, and try to do it again and with the second issue and start off?
Yeah, pretty much the idea is, really, it's like 150, 160 bucks a page to complete.
Right. It gets expensive. Yeah.
So, I'm happy to, I probably don't want to know how much money I've already put into it, but, it would be helpful if I could get some relief on the whole tab is the thought process. I think it's really good. The art's great. I think, even though I'm new to comics, I've been writing for a very long time. Yeah. And I think I should have just been doing comics the whole time, honestly. Because this just fits in a way that novels just didn't really in hindsight. But, I'm just trying to get in there and I don't want to be super cheap because it's not, it's worth buying, but I also don't think I can.
Listen, it is not cheap to make. That is one thing. Our wallets will tell you guys exactly that this thing is not cheap to make. Right? We price this thing at 10 to 15, 20 bucks for a 20, 30 page issue. Right? It's I'm gonna tell you, it costs a lot more for those per issue. Right? So it's for us to love this. This is a passion project and things of that nature, but we still need to make a little bit of money on it so we can continue to do this. It's fun to make money and make this stuff, right? We also, some of us, this is our day job. So definitely go out there and grab these guys if you can. Don't bankrupt yourself though. Make sure that you are safe and your family's safe, but go out and grab these books if you can. We've about 10 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that some of the other campaigns that we are working on. If you guys got to go, you guys can please just wave at us, let us know. But if you guys want to stick around and talk with us about some other campaigns that are either live right now or coming up, we're gonna go through those and talk a little bit about those. Ben, which one? What's first up?
Let's start with the Danger Squad.
Danger Squad. This one's fantastic. This one's a spooky mystery story. Think Scooby-Doo meets Stranger Things. And this is a fun fantastic story for everyone, right? You're definitely going to want to grab this one. This is going to be a graphic novel. We're going to be dropping this one sometime in the spooky season, so you're going to grab this one. And what's really cool about this is the creator, Eric, he's got this really cool, fun character that is an in-world character. They have their own podcast. They do mini podcasts, and they are a conspiracy theorist. And they are kind of giving you guys some clues. If you kind of figure out the clues and head on over to some of these websites that they got inside those clues, head on over to our all of our social media accounts, and follow us at Joey Galvez 1984 and at _Geek Collective, and we're going to be pushing some of those things out, and you can find some really cool stuff there, and it's going to kind of lead up to the release of this campaign. So it's going to be so fun, and it's going to be exciting to see what you guys think of this when it's all said and done. So make sure you guys are doing that. You guys can do that by going over to geekcollective.net/Danger Squad. Next one up, Ben.
Actually, I don't think the one I had, the other one I had, I think just closed out. So, what else do we have on? I'll bring it up.
Okay, we have. Okay, did Remember just finished up? So
Remember
that one's
finished. That was on my tab.
That one just finished up. I think there's some late pledges that you guys can head on over there and check that one out if you didn't catch that one during the live campaign. Hopefully, I haven't checked it, but hopefully there's if I'm not lying to you guys can head on over there to geekcollective.net/ Remember KS and see if there's any late pledges that you guys can grab there. Very cool one. This one follows two detectives who unravel a family's dark history, and one of the detectives just might be related to the people who are being killed, and they might be next. So you're definitely going to want to check this one out. It's kind of like a thriller, murder mystery, revenge story. So check it out. There's going to be 3 parts to this. Part 2 is coming out very soon. Like as soon as this one is going to be distributed, part 2 is going to be right back out there on Kickstarter. So check it out and keep a lookout on that one. And it's really, really cool. We're going to have some really cool, if you guys are heading over to New York Comic-Con, the creator, Patrick T. Foreman, is going to be there. He's going to have some really cool exclusive New York Comic-Con covers. We have a cover that he's going to be doing. We're going to put our logos on that. We're going to sponsor that one. So you guys want to go check that one out, grab that cover, take a picture of it. If you send us a picture of you holding that cover, maybe we'll send you some free swag. Let me know. Just make sure you at me and we'll get you guys something. And very cool. Check that one out. What else do we got? No, we have Kaijus and Cowboys are still going, right?
Oh, is it? I'll bring them up. Oh, hold on.
I believe so. This one's really cool from our friend Matt Blair. He also does a story called Romanus Magicae. They're going to be bringing that one back very soon as well. But this one is Kaijus and Cowboys. It's exactly what you think it is. But this is kind of the one that I was talking to you guys about. It's very kind of reminiscent to 2000 AD kind of style stuff. Very gorgeous looking artwork. It's Frankie B. Washington did the work. So definitely going to grab this one. Check it out. I think this is the 5th installment, so you can get 1 through 5 here if you guys are checking this one out. I do not have a vanity link for this one, so just go to kickstarter.com and type in Cowboys and Kaijus and Cowboys and check this one out. Very, very cool stuff. What else do we have?
That is all I know about. Unless there's
I think that's it. I think ours is next. Ours and yours, right? That's the last 2, I think.
I think so, yeah.
We want you guys to sign up for these ones here. This is our 2nd issue of Archetypes. We're going to be dropping this one. You can get 1 and 2. Whoops, that's not it. I have one here. This is the cover that Ben did for us. This is our cover B here. We have issue 1 ready and available if you guys want to pick that one up. So you can check this one out. Head on over to geekcollective.net/archetypes and the number 2, and check this one out. This is a kind of like independent geek culture magazine where we have comic books and articles about comics, and all that cool stuff. We're gonna have an article about real life comic book apparitions. How creepy is that? Like where comic book creators actually seen their real life comic book characters, like in ghost form or like creepy. There's a really cool creepy element to it. So I'm just dropping that. You guys got to read the article to see exactly what we're talking about. So that one's really cool. And we're gonna have a couple of interviews. We're gonna have some creepy short prose story and a bunch of really cool short comics. So definitely gonna want to check that one out. We got comics from Ben Humanek. We got ones from Austin Hamblin. We got all kinds of really cool stuff. So definitely check that one out. What else we got? We got yours. Tell us a little bit about yours, Ben.
All right, so mine is coming out pretty soon. I just have a few pages left to go. It's called Countdown to Cobalt Crisis. So this is basically your Crisis on Infinite Earths or Secret Wars type story as if it was created in the 1940s. So you get all that, the big time cosmic, armies of superheroes fighting type thing. But you also get that retro atmosphere that everybody likes in things like Batman the Animated Series and the old pulps. So we'll be coming out soon. I have, I think 3 pages to go. I have a few new pieces to show off that
look at that.
A little bit of what's going on there. Captain Lancet figuring out what's going on in the skies of Manhattan. And you'll also get to meet the Captain Lancet of an alternate Earth, which is kind of a Batman inspired character. I thought it would be fun to put together. So this one's going to be kind of an anthology like those old comics were, where you have a bunch of short stories in the main story that'll lead into the big event, which will be coming out either late this year or early next year.
Love that. And if you guys picked up Archetypes issue 1, you guys would have seen one of his characters that are going to be popping up in that story very soon. Tell them a little bit about this character.
Okay, so Ace Falcon is a kind of another hero in the Scarlet Twilight universe. He's not super powered. He's kind of an Indiana Jones pulp adventurer type guy. He kind of came out of the fact that I really liked a hero called Captain Midnight, another one called Spy Smasher. I thought they were public domain and I might be able to use them. Turned out they both weren't. So I kind of created a guy that had everything I liked about the two of them. So it was kind of fun to come up with something new that really just fit along with that stuff.
Very, very cool. And if you guys happen to be here in Arizona next weekend, I'm going to be at the Foundry in downtown Phoenix with Arizona Comic Book Fest, Art Fest. And we're going to have a table there, and you guys can grab issue 1 from us. And you guys can sign up for issue 2. We're going to be dropping that issue 2 in October, so make sure you guys are checking that out today. Ben, I think that's about all we got, man. You got anything else?
No, that's all I got.
That's all I got, man. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and sticking around with us. Make sure you guys are heading to your local comic shop and grabbing milk. Again, I'm going to drop those codes again for Previews World. That's SEP242012 and SEP242013. And you can get cover A and B by going to your favorite comic shop and letting them know about those codes, and they'll grab that for you, put it on your list. You can do that this week. Thank you. And then please head on over to Kickstarter and type in Edge of Darkness and check out Justin's story. Please, before we go, I want you guys to give your pitch one last time. This time, let's start with Bryan.
Sure. A 20-something slacker wakes up one morning and finds out he can travel through time up to 10 years into the past. However, he just decides to use it to buy cheap groceries until he has to solve a cold case murder.
Fantastic. And Justin.
Edge of Darkness is it's a far future dystopia where humanity's been living underwater for millions of years, and they basically swim around in biological suits of like giant squids or giant whales or whatever, and go do deep sea stuff. So it's It's a really interesting art style conceptually. My wife says I invented a new subgenre. I don't. I can't think of anything.
I love it. It's gorgeous. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So it's really it's tight 6 issues, and Leonardo the artist is just amazing. So that's the pitch.
Fantastic. And Ben, let's give them your information one more time for your story. Tell them the log line and where they can find that.
Well, Countdown to Cobalt Crisis is a 50-page comic that expands the We Are Scarlet Twilight universe and builds to my big universe-shattering event, Cobalt Crisis. And you can head over, actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, the links to everybody's books are right down there in the description, so you can click over directly. But you can also just Google Cobalt Crisis on Kickstarter. It'll take you there, which, of course, you can do for Edge of Darkness and any of the other great books, archetypes that we talked about here.
Yeah, fantastic. Head on over to geekcollective.net/archetypes #2, and you guys can let us know, notify you on launch when that one goes live. And thanks a lot, and please we'll see you guys next week. Next week we're gonna be next couple of weeks we're gonna be trying something different, so please bear with us. We're gonna be changing StreamYard is increasing their prices. We're not going to say that while we're live, but we're going to be playing around with some of the places that we can go live. So please, if you don't see us on one of the live streaming services that you are watching us now, just please do a quick search for us, and we'll try to find us again if you can't see us there. So we'll see you guys next time. Ben, please hit our outro.